In this video, we'll dive into some wild things we found about Tengen, Sukuna, and Kenjaku, and how they might have been the Heian Era's Team 7. Just as Geto, Gojo, and Shoko form a team, Sukuna, Kenjaku, and Tengen may have been part of a team back in the Heian Era. Let me share it with you all because it is wild. In chapter 220, we see Kenjaku inside one of Tengen's pure barriers. Both of them are walking to some mysterious hideout where we see Sukuna's vessel. The thing is, why would Sukuna's vessel be in Tengen's barrier out of all places? Sukuna's vessel has been sitting there for 1,000 years, and no one knew about it other than Kenjaku and Tengen. Why would Tengen keep something like Sukuna's old vessel in one of her barriers? Let's not forget that Tengen is like a god in the Jujutsu world and was the one who spread Japanese Buddhism during the Nara period, while also preaching the foundation of Jujutsu sorcerers. So it makes no sense for her to have Sukuna's unholy vessel in a place that is supposed to be pure and holy. Another thing to add is when Kenjaku asked Tengen if he could take Sukuna's vessel with him, he asked if she would be fine with it. Why would Kenjaku ask if she'd be fine with him taking Sukuna's vessel? You only ask that question if something is very important to someone. The fact that he asked her could suggest that Sukuna's vessel was important to her in some way. Sukuna himself found it ironic that Tengen kept his vessel in her barriers. He expected it to have been buried long ago, so discovering it was still around after over 1,000 years was mind-blowing to him. It's crazy to think someone like Tengen would keep Sukuna's vessel when he was a threat to the Jujutsu society, including sorcerers. Tengen might be way closer to Sukuna than we think. She might have wanted to protect Sukuna's body, possibly knowing he would return one day and would need it. Let's not forget that Tengen can see everything that is going on within Japan thanks to her barrier, so she probably was aware of Sukuna's reincarnation and what Kenjaku was up to. It seems like she was waiting for his comeback. Plus, there's a panel where Tengen and Sukuna's faces are next to each other, and they kind of resemble each other slightly. We still don't know why Gege did this, but they likely have some mysterious connection. It's also interesting how in one of the panels we see them all reunited as people who once knew each other. The fact that Gege included this panel might indicate they were part of a team back in the Heian Era during their periods as sorcerers. Still a theory, but this panel speaks volumes. Another thing to point out is that Tengen, Sukuna, and Kenjaku have one thing in common, and that is they lived for over 1,000 years. We know that Sukuna was once a human sorcerer, and Kenjaku and Tengen were also sorcerers. This can imply that they may, in fact, have worked together as sorcerers back in the Heian Era before taking their own paths. Of course, Sukuna took his path into becoming a criminal. Kenjaku turned into a mad scientist, and Tengen decided to use her barrier technique to optimize CE levels in Japan. So we can technically say that they know each other very well. It makes sense why Kenjaku told Yuki and Choso that it was their fault for trusting Tengen. If Choso and Yuki had known that Sukuna's vessel resided in Tengen's barrier, they would not have trusted Tengen as they did. Only Kenjaku knew that Tengen was holding on to Sukuna's vessel, which is particularly interesting given Tengen's reputation as a good person. If it's confirmed that they have been part of a team like Gojo's team or Yuji's, then we can easily say that Sukuna might have been the Geto of their group. Sounds like a crazy statement, but let me explain why. If you observe Geto and Sukuna's personality in life, you will realize that they have two things in common. The first thing they have in common is that they both hate humans. If you've watched JJK Zero, you've probably seen how much Geto hates humans. He killed 112 people, including his family, just to save 2 girls. On top of that, he believed sorcerers are the superior race and humanity's next stage of evolution. This all happened right after his conversation with Yuki about how cursed energy comes from humans, making them the root cause of all problems in Japan. Geto even called non-sorcerers monkeys, showing his deep hate for them. Sukuna is very similar. We don't know much about Sukuna's past, but we do know that he was a jujutsu sorcerer like Geto, and he also hates humans. Sukuna believes humans are weak and compares them to insects. He even admits he cannot understand why the weak cling so desperately to life instead of quietly accepting the suffering that life forces them to endure, believing the weak have no right to complain. Both Geto and Sukuna do not see humans as humans, but as insects or monkeys. The second thing that Geto and Sukuna have in common is that both were killed by fellow jujutsu sorcerers. For Geto, Yuta did some major damage, but it was Gojo who finished him off. Sukuna met a similar fate, killed by other jujutsu sorcerers. Though we don't know exactly who, we know they were sorcerers. Both were taken down by sorcerers, making them very similar in that way. Not only is Geto similar to Sukuna, but Kenjaku and Gojo are also pretty similar. The way they're portrayed in the manga shows it. Gojo dreams of changing the jujutsu world and building a new society with strong allies to help him make it happen. Kenjaku, on the other hand, wants to create a world of the future where jujutsu society doesn't exist because Tengen, the core pillar, is removed. Both of them are all about reshaping the world, just in completely different ways. Kenjaku's plan is all about creating chaos to eventually bring order. As a mad scientist, he knows that chaos often precedes order. That's why he wants to merge humanity with Tengen, which he believes will lead to a new world. Gojo wants to reset the jujutsu world, aiming for its rebirth. This vision is similar to Kenjaku's desire for a new world, which would happen if Tengen is removed. We know Gojo is clearly a good person, but Kenjaku is a more complex character. He appears evil, and his actions align with that, but his intentions and goals seem to benefit benefit both curses and sorcerers. He doesn't hold anything against curses, understanding that they originated from humans and bearing no stigma towards them. His aim is to create a world where both strong sorcerers and curses are removed, allowing for coexistence of weak curses along weaker sorcerers. Kenjaku is aware of Tengen, and he knows that the only way for the world to be at peace is for Tengen to die, and this is because of her barriers. I can guarantee you that without her barriers, he would not have gone after her. He only wants access to those barriers as their main function is to optimize cursed energy within Japan, allowing him to begin the merger and create chaos. From the manga, we learn that Tengen's barriers are designed to optimize cursed energy, allowing for strong sorcerers to thrive in Japan. However, these barriers also make curses stronger. You might wonder how this happens, and the answer is simple. The barriers increase the CE levels. Since curses are born from CE, an increase in CE levels means curses become more powerful as their CE level rises. Their very essence is cursed energy, so higher CE levels lead to stronger curses like Mahito, alongside powerful sorcerers like Gojo. So basically, Tengen's barrier is a double-edged sword. Explains why curses are the strongest in Japan, making both Japanese curses and sorcerers the most powerful in the world. So when Kenjaku was saying how the sorcerers made a mistake in trusting Tengen, he was speaking the truth. The guy knows what he is talking about. For 1,000 years, Kenjaku's main goal was to get close to Tengen. He did whatever it took to access her and use her for the merger, which is happening now. Kenjaku planned the merger, Sukuna is making it happen, and Tengen is the one who will die. The relationship between Tengen, Sukuna, and Kenjaku is still a mystery, but given that they were all sorcerers of similar age and lived in the same era, might suggest that they were classmates like Gojo and Geto, but went down different paths. Still a theory, but if it's true, then we can say that Sukuna chose his path, which was hating humans and world destruction. Kenjaku might have had some disdain for humans, but knew killing them wasn't the answer. Instead, he aimed to create a new world where both sorcerers and curses could coexist, without Tengen's barrier around. Tengen was a good person, but her barriers were a double-edged sword. Thanks to Kenjaku, that double-edged sword will be removed after the merger. Hopefully, Gege can explain their weird relationship, because they are definitely closer than we think.